First aiders are typically volunteers within the workplace, who in addition to their normal duties provide immediate assistance, perhaps until further medical assistance arrives. So it'd be a horrible irony if workplace risks were increased because first aid provision hadn't been reviewed in light of wider workplace changes brought about by COVID-19. You see, there might have been a change in shift patterns, reduction in the availability of certain workers, first aiders who are now working from home rather than on site in the factory, production facility, store or so on. A change to the risk profile with more people lone working or working in smaller teams. And there may be issues around vulnerable workers continuing to act in first aid roles. So your employer should be reviewing what's called their first aid needs assessment. And that assessment should consider the circumstances of your workplace, the workforce, and the hazards and risks that might be present. Now, the findings of that are then what helps your employer decide what first aid arrangements should be in place. It may be that high-risk activities will need to be halted or only carried out at certain times, or that first aid provision should be shared, maybe, between neighbouring organisations. Though if that's to be the case, it's important that each is familiar with the other's work environment and the types of injury and so on which can occur, have sufficient experience, knowledge and capacity to provide cover. There may also be issues around training needs, and we know that, for example, extensions are being granted where requalification training is being impacted by COVID-19. There are changes to advice around CPR, which employers should brief out to their first aiders. The Resuscitation Council has issued amended guidance on compression-only CPR. They should also be providing first aiders with guidance on what to do if they need to provide assistance to someone within your workplace suspected of having contracted COVID-19. Now, British Red Cross, they've issued some useful guidance on this, pointing out though that first aiders have always had to consider the risk of infection, not from COVID-19, but from other infections which have the potential to do harm, such as hepatitis, HIV and so on. So if you need to provide assistance to an individual who may have an infection, wherever possible that person should be placed in a location away from others. If there's no physically separate room, then others not involved in providing assistance should stay at least 2 metres away from the individual. If barriers or screens are available, they should be used. And where it's not possible to maintain a 2 metre distance, disposable gloves and disposable apron are recommended. Disposable gloves should be worn if physical contact is likely to be made with potentially contaminated areas or items. A fluid-repellent surgical face mask is recommended, and additional use of disposable eye protection should be risk assessed when there's an anticipated contamination from splashes, droplets, body fluids. Hands should be cleaned thoroughly with soap and water or alcohol sanitizer before putting on and after taking off PPE. And in all circumstances where some form of PPE is used, the safe removal and disposal of that is critical to avoid self-contamination. Cleaning, it'll depend on where assistance was provided, and your employers should already have risk assessed that. All surfaces that a symptomatic individual has come into contact with must be cleaned and disinfected. On behalf of everyone here at Scottish Hazards, can I say a huge thank you to all of you who undertake the role of first aider. Whilst the focus in any workplace should of course be on prevention, the provision of immediate, sometimes life-saving medical care before the arrival of further medical help is crucial. Should you have any queries about first aid provision in your workplace, or have concerns about the safe systems of work operating in your workplace, please get in touch. Our contact number is 0800 0015 022. Together, let's make Scotland a safer place to live and to work.